Cool.
Sure
Let's go.
thing. Thank you.
Let's do it. So, going back to, Daniel's talking about keeping the train running. We talk about generating leads. We talk about having that database and having everyone in a centralized location to where we can refer back to it, circle back to it. But here's the big thing. We have to follow up with intention. And one thing that I've been really exposed to as of lately is that words matter. The right words matter, especially when you're talking to someone, when you're trying to follow up with them, when you're trying to keep the relationship going. You want to come from a professional standpoint, but you also want to use the right verbiage. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I think y'all will find this valuable here because a lot of times it's not about generating. We always want to generate more leads. That's a given. More leads in the pipeline is always going to be a plus. But the other thing that's important is knowing what to say to these leads, knowing how to nurture them, and knowing how to follow up with them in a professional and in a effective manner. So what we're going to talk about today is, we always have to circle back, but I keep seeing this over and over from these top rated real estate coaches from all over the country. And they say, stop saying, I am just checking in or I'm just following up. And we're going to talk about why that is. It's not only is it a bit of a tired rhetoric, but the reality is they say, well, why do I need to stop saying that? Because it comes off in a desperate tone. It comes off just like every other person that they've been in contact with, just like every other salesperson. I'm just following up. I'm just following up. I really feel that when people get that phone call or when they get that text message or if they get that email, they're immediately going to turn off and say, oh, they're just bothering me again. We don't want to sound desperate. We want to come from a place of knowledge, experience, authority, and value. So, to increase that value, and we're going to talk about that at the end, it's all about re communicating the value proposition and reinforcing our offer. So, here are some alternatives. Instead of saying, I'm just checking in, try saying something. I have an update that I think you'll find interesting. Ready to discuss. Would you like to discuss? Don't you think that sounds a little more intriguing? If y'all got this text message or you got this voicemail or if someone answers the phone and you started with this, don't you think this would pique their interest a little bit more than, hey, I'm just following up? Hey, I have an update that I think you'll find interesting. Now we're talking about their needs. It's always about talking about their needs. We're not just trying to follow up to make a sale. Say, hey, we think you might find this interesting. So instead of saying, I wanted to follow up on our last conversation, try something like, I thought about what you shared and I have an idea to help things move forward. I had this conversation with Josie yesterday. We have some clients that we're working, and Josie's been in touch with them, but they're still on the fence. And I said, well, what do we need to do to move it forward? We need to move the needle. We can't just keep saying, well, call me when you're ready and I'll be here. That's not going to get us where we need to go. The journey needs to move forward. So we want to try to push forward, try to push the needle forward. Instead of saying, I'm reaching out to see if you've had time, try saying something like, I have a recommendation that could be a game changer in your home search or for whatever the goal is. That could be a game changer for your credit repair, whatever the goal is. Can we review it together? Bring in your lender, get other people involved, help move them forward throughout the transaction. So try something like this. Hey, we're testing out something new this week that helps people overcome a big down payment. Maybe you have access to a lender that has a great down payment assistance. Maybe you have access to a builder that's throwing a phenomenal interest rate. The possibilities are endless to overcome that problem, but we want to show our expertise and we want to show our value. If something's a problem, maybe the last house they looked at, maybe the monthly payment was going to be too big. Hey, we're testing out something, or I have access to something that could help overcome that. We have a new builder that's offering amazing incentives and a great interest rate. Try to move that needle forward. I remember you mentioned struggling with whatever the challenge is, so I thought of you. You want me to send you some more information? Cool stuff, right? I think, even in reading this, what I'm going to do for myself to implement this is I'm going to save these prompts in my Apple Notes on my phone. And if I run into a situation, I'm going to refer back to them, put the name in there, maybe switch up a couple words, and use this to see. Now I can kind of A B test and see, hey, I'm getting good response from this. I didn't really get good response from this. So this is going to give you some good options to try to re-engage with those leads that we already have. Whether it's database leads, old leads, leads that we're trying to reinvigorate, past clients, whatever the case might be, because more leads is not always the remedy. Sometimes it's re-engaging with the leads that have maybe fallen off, maybe we've lost contact. So this will give you some good ammo to go and re-engage. Try something like this. Hey, I hope you don't mind me asking, we're making big upgrades to our program. I know you've been considering joining. What would make this a no-brainer for you? You could use this for agents. If you have agents that you've talked to in the past, maybe you're trying to attract them to the company and say, hey, we've made big upgrades to our rev share program, because we have. We've made big upgrades to our CRM. Now we're offering CRM of choice. I remember you mentioned that that was important to you. What would make this a no-brainer? So use this, tailor it to whatever action you're trying to push. Okay, so a lot of cool stuff, because we always have to remember that the follow-up should add value, be clear, and show confidence in our offer. I've been talking about this for the last few weeks. It's about putting an offer forward. What is the offer that we are putting in front of our clients? Because at the end of everything, we're trying to sell an offer. We're trying to portray a product. We're trying to move a product. Now, there's a lot of different things you can say. Well, I'm trying to sell myself. I'm trying to sell my services. I'm trying to sell my value. Liz, you portrayed your value. You exhibited your value. You stood up for your clients. Daniel, you stood up for your clients. Josie, we stand up for our clients. We represent our clients. We make sure that things are taken care of. But we have to put that offer in the forefront, because what's going to entice anybody to call us instead of the 5 or 10 other realtors that they know? Because they know a lot of realtors, or their aunt is a realtor, or their cousin, or their friend's son just got their license, whatever the case might be. So we need to communicate our offer, be clear, and when we're following up, try these different verbiage prompts. See, A, B it. Someone who hasn't been responding, try these prompts, see if it gets the re-engagement back. Good stuff.